Oh, no, I didn't want to do that again. Shut up.
Encore, encore.
I just moved my mouse just a little bit and whoop, it started up again.
It started up again. Hi, Deborah.
Hey,
Good to
Deborah.
see you again.
Can
Welcome
she,
back.
can she wave with her right hand? Yes, because her left one's broke.
And
Bless her
sending good
heart.
juju for that. Yeah, Iris told me your story. Hello, Jamie. Good to see you too. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you
Yes.
for the compliment. Woohoo. Yeah,
Oh,
we
gosh.
all got stories, I'm telling you. Welcome to Isaac. Ooh, lots of happy bells. My goodness, we're going to chase away all kinds of demons with that kind of bells.
My
Welcome.
dog's getting excited over here. She's going,
She's like, oh, happy thrills.
yes.
You as well. I'm going to send the link to a few ladies. Thank you, Jamie. That would be awesome. Feel free to shoot our link all you want. We're on for the next hour.
Yes.
Till about, well, sometimes it's 11 o'clock, but sometimes we go for an hour at 10:30, 10:40, 10:50.
Yeah, it just depends on how far we can push it. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it depends on where the thread goes. But we have a lot of fun, and that's part of what burns up the time. Welcome to Eyes of Indigo. We send warm appreciations to our regulars that like to come and join us. And if you are new to the channel, welcome to the show. We're glad you see that you're here. If you are new to the show and you kind of don't know who is this Iris and
Oh, that's
Margot,
right. I need to put our names up.
that's all right.
I am like so far out today. Okay.
Think of us as Frozen. She's the white haired sister, and I'm the red haired sister.
Oh, okay. Elsa and Anna. Was Elsa the
Anna? Yeah, Elsa and Elsa. You're Elsa.
Elsa and
You're
Anna?
Elsa. Anna.
Anna.
And if you would like to know more about us for real, all right, we actually are consummate professionals, but just not on the show.
Speak for yourself.
I think I am, but it does leak over.
I try. I can play at it sometimes. Okay.
Absolutely. We're both working. If you're new to the show and you want to know more about our background and why we're here, what our credentials are, what led us to this, you can get all that information in the very first episode on Iris's YouTube channel and see it in episode 1 called The Prequel. And it's about 30 minutes long. It summarizes our education and professional backgrounds that led us to this. And we have done, yikes, that was back in September of 2020. And now we are at the beginning of 22. This has been weekly. And Iris has been leading up every single show.
Any wonder that I'm punchy.
Absolutely. This is a regular part of her weekly grind. And we are very appreciative. Yeah. And we've had fascinating guests on here. More to come as we go along in 22. And Eyes of Indigo is largely about, we have a sense of humor. We swear, we laugh, we are irreverent, and we are reverent, depending on the flow of the conversation.
I wrote on my website, it says the most irreverent reverend you'd ever want to meet.
There you go. That's perfect. That's perfect. Oh, and we got Jamie Irene here. Punchy. That's a good word for us as well. And we use humor, but if you stick with us for a whole show or even a couple of shows as well, you find out that we actually are trying to share something. We are trying to share some enlightenment and bring some food for thought as well as food for humor. And Iris and I have been friends for a couple of years now. We've known each other for several years.
Yeah.
And we benefit from doing this as well. I've used the term slingshotting each other. I sling you up, you reach back, snatch, and sling me back up along with you.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's like this.
Mm-hmm.
Choo, choo, choo. And we both grow because of it, and it's really.
And occasionally we crash into each other.
Oh,
you are. I knew you were. Felt that one. And it's fun. We have a lot of fun along the way, and we learn and grow. We share our gifts with each other, and here we share our gifts with you guys. Yeah. So thank you for coming to play. You can see or hear the show in rerun after the broadcast. We do broadcast this live on or actually Irish broadcast this live on YouTube and on Facebook. And when somebody comments in Facebook, which we encourage you to do, newcomers and regulars, type hello, type hey, let us know you're out there tonight. And your comments on Facebook cannot be seen on YouTube, and YouTube comments cannot be seen on Facebook. So you might hear us talking about comments that you can't see. When it's a good idea, we pop them up on the bottom of the screen. Also, people listen to this in audio. You can listen to us on Spotify and I think iTunes. Is that another one?
Yeah, and any of the other aggregators. I am woefully behind in getting those done, but there's a good 6, 7, 8 months of them on
already there, and every one of them is loaded with fun and information. So feel free to check those out. We read stuff out loud for our audio listeners as well. And we appreciate you too. Yay!
And do please comment, just if it's just to say hey.
Send us a smiley face.
Yeah, but just so we know who's there, because it's very hard for us to tell exactly who's visiting and who's not. The numbers just don't quite show up right. But and if you make a comment and you don't want us to read it, know that it will be seen by anybody else that's on your platform. But I won't put it up if you don't want me to. But it's fun to share the conversation. So yeah.
We welcome comments, we welcome questions, we welcome but what if? It's okay to contradict us if you feel like you got something that goes the other way. Lively discussion, examples of what we're talking about that come to your mind. Please share any of that you feel like sharing. We intentionally designed this to be interactive with you. So come and play. Yeah.
And Margaret, let me ask, have I frozen at all since we started? You've frozen a couple of times. I don't know if you're freezing for everybody else or if it's just me.
Guys, can you let us know if either one of us are freezing the screen, if we've stopped moving? If we have stopped moving on your screen, please put in the comments, Jamie or Deborah.
Because I was going to say, because when I logged out and came back earlier, it helped. And I just want to make sure if you needed to, I wanted to be sure we did that.
Yeah, I can jump out. I can always jump out and jump back.
But so today,
thank you.
Should I go on with today's show?
Yes, Iris, tell us where we're going, what rabbit hole we're playing in today.
Well, this was interesting. We got a question from a viewer, which really appreciated. She sent an email and asked, and I said, "This is an excellent topic." She was like, how do you go down? How do you choose your spiritual path? How do you go down that path? And what can I do and so I said, we're going to do a show on that. And Margaret was right on it and said, yes. And, how do you know where to begin? Where do you look? And we're going to talk about the directions, that people take and how you can pursue your spiritual path, as well as, whether you're new or you've been on it a while. So, yeah, Jamie says it's not freezing there.
but except outside.
Okay, good.
So we'll talk about starting and some of the roadblocks, that people typically run into. Again, feel free to ask questions as we go.
Right. Yeah. So I guess the best place where I wanted to start with this, it reminded me, I had talked to students about starting their career paths or choosing a career path. And a spiritual path is a lot like any other path that you might take, whether it's in relationships, marriage, spirituality, careers, any type of embarkment on a new journey. You can look at it like a path, and everybody's path is different. And just to show an example, you know, a lot of people have a path. They see a light at the end of the tunnel, kind of thing. Not, you know, I'm not talking about the figuratively, like they're dying on their path, but I don't want to do that.
Metaphorically,
yeah, but you know, it can be a focused approach. Like, oh, I know exactly where I'm going. I see it ahead, and bam, 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 off you go. It might be a lot of steps involved. And the stairway, you know, looks fairly okay, but doesn't have handrails. It's, you know, it's a challenge, and some steps are going to be rocky. Some steps are going to be higher. You know,
some will be smooth, some will be rough.
Yes, and so, but some might involve a lot of steps. Some might involve a few steps. Sometimes you go down a path and you're strolling along and you have somebody with you, and they might be with you for a long time. Or you might have, you know, a companion, regardless of how old you are, that helps you on your journey.
Or they might be, or they might be with you briefly.
Yes.
Which also confounds people a lot when important people come and disappear quickly.
Yes.
So that's worth discussing later. But
yes, and then and then sometimes, you know, everything's sunny and warm, and you got wheels, and you're just zipping along, and everything's hunky dory, and that's really cool. And then sometimes you've got you don't know where the hell you're going.
Got a maze to approach and overcome. Yeah,
and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, you can't see over the wall, and you're just having to choose
decisions. Yeah.
And then sometimes you got a bunch of asses in your way, and you can't see where to
go. Line of beautiful little elephant butts right there in the picture. So cute.
They are adorable. I was like, am I going to do that to them? Yes, hell yes. I'm going to.
They're cute and funny. And elephants are sweet babies.
Yes,
they are. There's a bunch of butts in your way. Yeah.
Sure. Move, I can't see.
Exactly. Oh, get a lot of baboon butts next time.
Yeah,
that could be a lot. That could be information overload.
Yeah, really, exactly. So when you think about the path that you're going to take, recognize it is your path, and it's very unique to you. The other thing is, it's going to come to you in different ways. And like you were saying, Margot, with how people join and leave your path, I think there are people that if you look back, like sometimes we go, I really miss that person and wonder how they're doing, or wonder why we lost touch, or whatever. It helps to recognize that they were there at a part of your life where you needed to learn something through them, with them, from them. And if you've lost touch and, you can find them on Facebook or whatever, that makes it fun because you're still kind of seeing what's going on with them. I do that with a lot of people that I'm curious. Yeah. And that's really cool. But if you can't quite find that relationship again, don't mourn it and don't have regrets or feel that you were rejected or something like that. It's just a matter of
don't read it. Avoid that BS. Don't take on baggage that isn't there. Stop creating baggage that isn't there.
Exactly, because that's more baggage you got to take on your journey.
Right.
And it slows you down.
Yeah, Iris said it first. Don't read into that. Absolutely.
And so, but a lot of times when I reflect on people, I realize how they helped me get through something. Mm-hmm. Or even if it wasn't like directly, oh, that person was there when my mother died, and it's like I went through a difficult thing, but there were little things that they said along the way that I needed to hear. Or they were a friend that ate lunch with me and made me feel better. You know,
They were a vehicle for something
yeah,
else
yeah,
needed.
and that kind of gives you that support you need when you're going through something. So I think that's important to recognize too. So you can let go of the obligations if they're not in your life. You don't have, or you think that you're supposed to make up for something.
We could do a whole show on the BS that comes with guilt.
Yeah, and I've actually, that was in my notes
That's
too, was
baggage.
the
Yeah,
three
that's the
R's.
motivation to slow you down. Yeah. Guilt is
Resentment,
designed to
regret.
stop you.
Yeah, resentment,
Yes.
regret, and rejection are the three things that will hold you back in any of your journeys.
Yes. We need to do a show on recognizing when that happens, because sometimes it's very subtle and it's sneaky. And then also we can throw out some advice on how to manage it if you recognize it in your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, guilt is an underpinning of all three of those very powerful events, emotional, socio-emotional events. Yeah.
Yeah.
So please
Yeah.
continue. I think you had an example.
Yeah. I was, I can remember, like in my spiritual journey, not really realizing, there was a time when I was trying to choose what to do religiously, which is very different than spiritually. And we went to church, a Presbyterian church, when I was very small. But when I was about 6, we moved and didn't get back into a church because of my dad's work schedule and stuff. And so
Yeah.
I was, gosh, probably I had moved out of the house, and we were Presbyterian when I was young. But my parents, after I moved out, joined a church that a bunch of my mom's family was in. And they seemed real happy there. And I thought, well, that'd be cool because I could connect with some cousins that I hadn't seen in a while, and some people I knew, and that sort of thing. And it'd be kind of cool to get back in church with mom and dad. So I decided to join the church. And of course, then after I decide that, I find out, oh, you got to go through the baptism thing and all that, because I hadn't done it since I was an infant. And I'm like, really? And yeah, you've got to, now that you're of age, you've got to profess. Okay. If you say so.
They want you to swear in to their God.
Yes, exactly.
Which is not the God that they think it is, but it's a whole nother discussion. We'll just move on.
Okay. And so I did that, and things were okay, but like I got real disappointed. Like I'd go to Sunday school class with my cousins and the couple of people that I knew that were my age. And several of them were in divinity studies. One of them was going to Duke. Another, and they had grown up with this stuff, and they were quoting Bible verses. And sometimes they would just throw the numbers back at each other and have these entire conversations, and I'd be going, really, people?
Yeah, they're being cool with just saying the number, and the quote would make their statement for them.
Right. And it's
but that's exclusionary. That's like talking Greek.
And so I quit going to Sunday school. And I love when things happen in church that you quit doing and nobody asks you why. It's like,
such as,
okay, like when I quit going to Sunday school, why didn't any of the members of Sunday school come up to me in church the following Sundays and go, we missed you, why don't you come back? And give me the opportunity.
Because you were asking all the hard questions in class and they didn't want to deal with that. Ours get real. You were forcing them to go to places they didn't really want to go.
Well, that's true. That's probably why they kept spouting over me the scriptures and stuff, because I'm like, what about this? And
but throwing holy water on you.
The battle of
so religious oriented. There's probably some conversations behind your back that went that way.
Oh my God, I never thought about that.
Because Iris, you're radical, and it does come out.
Oh.
It comes out between.
And I thought I was mild and meek, at least in those situations.
You can't hold down an intelligent woman. It's going to show. It's going to show. You're a research hound. You're a questioner by nature. Thank God, because that brings a lot of information forward that other people may have missed otherwise without you in there. But that means people like you ask probing questions that other people don't probing look at. Yeah, and they don't want to look at that all the time. Jamie Irene says it made it. Oh, she shared a little bit.
I love Christianity, or evolved, as I like to see it, because that religion made me feel bad about myself. Yes. Hey, yeah, I'll give you multiple bells.
For that. We completely 100% understand that feeling, and both of us have had that experience too.
And
yeah, that's not what Jesus would have done. No. That's not a W. Yeah, that's not genuine doctrine right there.
Exactly. And so then, then life happens. I got married, and I decided to go to the church my husband grew up in, and that was a Presbyterian church.
Okay.
And the minister was like, well, we could do the whole baptism thing again so you can profess your allegiance to. And I looked at him. I've already been through that 2 times now, because I was a baby, and when I was a baby, my mother wanted to have me christened, and the minister said, she's not a boat. You don't christen babies, you baptize them. and then when I went to the Methodist church,
the hell you say I am a boat. Raw. Talk to the four guns, baby. I'm the captain of this ship.
Bow before my bow, right?
Right. I'll shoot one over your bow, motherfucker.
That's right.
And watch your shit, man. I am. Go anyway.
So anyway, what I did was, and I looked at him and I said, really? I said, it's just, if there's records to transfer, just transfer. Why do I have to go through this again? God's okay with it.
Records for people's levels of spirituality performances.
And so they said, well, yeah, no, we won't make you go through all that again. It'll be all right. And I'm like,
what do you mean there's records about how Christian I is or I ain't?
Yeah. I mean,
and what I has and has not done.
I was registered with the
cheeseburgers,
church.
Baby. Yeah, registered. Are you registered Nazi too? I mean, what's this registered shit? So anyway.
They got to have the records. And anyway. So
exactly.
So, and I did that church for a while. And this was another case of why people, it made me wonder about Christianity. When people go to church all the time and profess to be Christians, and I got involved with the church. I was on the board of deacons. I was going to the church and cleaning and making, because we didn't have a cleaning crew. And so I'd go and scrub toilets and all that stuff every other week. And
you was a church lady.
I was a church lady.
You was a church lady.
I taught Sunday school.
Oh, you was a church lady.
I was doing all this stuff. Well,
why?
I started going through my divorce.
Why?
And the minister wanted to have, he wanted to have an affair.
He wanted to have counseling sessions in private with you.
And I mean, it got real. I was flattered by the attention.
Sure.
And then it got it got down to it. And I mean, and
over the line or not, right?
And he said, remember, this is between the two of us. You can't fall in love, and you can never tell anybody. And it was like the light went on, and I said, "Whoa, never mind." I mean, it was like
this was not,
and
it was not a true that was not a truly spiritual or loving connection.
no, it was, and I ended up taking him to like the presbytery and, you know, reporting him, and, you know, went through
Good.
a series of stuff.
Stood up for yourself.
Yeah, I really did. And I mean, it was.
Jamie's cheering you on too.
Yes, thank you, Jamie.
down in the comments, yeah.
And I got one of the fucking slime ball. He, you know, one of the best things. I was already in therapy, and they paid for like 10 extra sessions for me. And I was like, yes. And
that's ethical.
My therapist said the best thing to me. She said, you know, she said, there are some people that see an injured bird and they scoop them up and they take care of them and they heal them so that they can fly again on their own. And there are some people that would scoop up an injured bird and squish it for their own pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, which one is he?
Right.
And I was like, ding, 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 ding. You know, that went off. And
hang on a second. Jamie, to answer your question, no, the church backed her, not him.
Yes.
You asked, she says, does the church back him? No, they did not. They believed Iris and they backed her up.
They backed me up. And we had like a mediation thing where he had somebody there to support him. I had somebody to support me. And
fairness
yes.
counts.
And
right.
And he wrote, they asked me what did I want from this. And I said, I don't want him to be ruined. And I don't want to ruin other people's experience in our church by creating this hullabaloo. You know, like, I know.
You weren't there for the drama.
I wasn't there for the drama. And I thought if they want to live in La La Land, that's fine. But I want him to understand what he did, and I want a letter of apology. So he wrote me this apology letter that was like, I'm sorry if you misunderstood what I did. And even the guy that was there to support him. Yeah. And he said, the guy that was there to support him said, well, you know, like, one time I was comforting a woman who had a death in her family, and I patted her hand, and then she accused me of sexual assault. So maybe you just misunderstood what he did. And I'm like, no, I didn't.
Did you describe what physical activities happened between the two of you?
Not
in that session.
Not in that forum. The people that were listening to all this knew.
No. All right. So
my supporter knew.
So that stupid comment came from an uninformed person.
Yes.
Who did not know that hand patting was not involved.
and so then, and it was just like a little short letter that he wrote. Yeah. And I said, I want to respond. And they said, yes, you can respond. And so I went home. We scheduled another meeting. And I wrote a 3-page letter that outlined, you know, why what he did was wrong, what I understood, and how, you know, you don't mistreat people and take advantage of people when they're at their lowest. And you know, I believed you were a friend, and you turned that friendship around. And not only have I lost my marriage, but I have lost somebody that I thought I could confide in, and it was a good friend. And, you know, there was no misunderstanding. You know exactly what you did.
It was calculated.
And you're trying to hide behind it. And, you know, just know, yes, my ex-husband and my children still go to that church, and I will be watching you like a hawk. And, you know, and I quit going to meetings. I quit going to church. I quit all the stuff that I was doing. Do you know, not one person in that church, nobody
acknowledged it.
acknowledged it, called me to find out, Iris, are you all right? How can somebody drop out of doing so much
They
week
were
after
told
week?
not to. They were told not to. For that many people in that significant role, not one person to speak out, that means they were told not to. I would think, in just logical sequence, that people would go to him and say, the leader of the church and your number one fan, our Iris, always here for us. Pastor, where is she? He probably said she went her own way. Please don't disturb her. We're just going to let it go.
That
He
makes sense.
probably told them in a diplomatic way, stand down and don't bother her. There's no way that not one person in a church community would not check in on a regular member. There's no way, unless they were told not to. Obviously, he had to be discreet because of your kids and your ex-husband. So he probably diplomatically said, "Let Iris go her own way and don't disturb her. Don't
And that
interfere.
makes
Don't
more
interfere."
sense than I would like to believe that of the people that
Did
never.
that
And
never contacted you?
yeah, and I went back, like there was one time I went back, there was some special program at church that the kids were
Sure.
involved in.
Yeah.
And I went and then when you come out, of course, you have to go say something to the pastor. And I got up to him and he was like, well, it's good to see you. Started to reach out. And I said, I just came by only to let you know I'm watching you. I am watching you.
You still weren't ready to let that bone go.
I said, you keep your damn hands off my children.
No, and no one else heard you.
Nobody else heard me. I kept her way low. And he was going, yeah, yeah. I mean, his eyes were down. Yes, okay.
You had a lot of personal power over that guy.
I did. And
he acquiesced his power to you.
Yeah, because his and to watch what his children went through, I have my own suspicions about stuff that happened there.
You were not the only person he abused.
Mm-mm.
Let's just leave it there for now. So he was married when he pursued you. Okay, yeah. So this was not a person of high moral social standards. Okay.
But a big leader in the community church.
In that community. Well, first there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah. So anyway, and I didn't mean to go way off on that tangent. I was just going to talk about kind of going through that, but I didn't know I was going to get all into the.
So you went through that part of your spiritual journey.
Yeah.
You learned a little bit about the darkness of. You learned a lot about the dark side of that. By the way, next week we will talk about shadow work and spiritual journeys. But for now,
and then
your story.
Yeah, I went. Let's see. She asked, "What did the pastor's wife think?"
What pastor's wife think?
She was involved with the church for a long time, sung in the choir and did her little part. But after a while, there were some suspicions about him having affairs with other women in the church, and she just got tired of it and quit coming to church. And
because it's all gossip,
yeah.
So she just wasn't on the radar, as far as you know. Yeah,
I think she knew what was going on and just.
Oh yeah. She got tired of being confronted with it.
Yeah, but and after that, and after going through all that stuff, you could see him age very quickly. His health went down. He just got older looking. I mean, it was like overnight. It was amazing to see. It was like, I hate to say this, but it was like a part of his soul died. He got caught and got reprimanded for it. So anyway, but
he didn't lose his job, did he?
No.
So we'll continue with your story.
Yeah.
So you grew on from that.
Yeah. Several years later, or about that later on, about that same time, I guess, during that time, I was also reading. I got interested in some books I started picking up. I had done it when I was a kid and left it, but I came back, started picking up books about parapsychology, ESP, um, psychic stuff, and came across the book about George Anderson, and I think it's just called George Anderson, and Shirley MacLaine, Out on a Limb. And we were talking right before the show, and you said you had read the book, and we think we read it about the same time.
Yeah, around 84, 85. Yeah.
That was a huge spiritual revolution. Huge. And it was like you start realizing how things are connected, and I highly recommend the book. A lot of people, she kind of got lambasted for it at the time. Shirley MacLaine was ahead of her time, I think.
People teased her about it, but she still kept going. She was on Johnny Carson demonstrating about the chakra system and how we're more than just a human body. Yeah, all that. She went way on out there. Yeah.
And she talks about her own journey. They Out on a Limb. She was going out on a limb to share the story of her own journey. And to see...
Yeah, she was astral traveling out of her body. Yeah.
Yes. In touch with aliens.
Yeah.
She went to Peru with that friend of hers, and the steam baths and stuff like that, and had the astral projection there. And I mean, it was just it's amazing stuff.
Peru is a mecca spot. It's a PowerPoint. Yeah, the whole country is a PowerPoint on the planet for that. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so
your journey.
Yeah, and so to hear that, and then. And what happens a lot of times in your journey, it's like something came up. I might have seen something advertised about the book and said, oh, that sounds interesting. It was probably because people were teasing or that I thought it would be worth a read. And then curiosity about some other stuff. I kind of started where I left off. And in reading, then you learn something else that takes you on your next step and your next step. And that's kind of the way what I learned in my processes were that if you are on a journey and you suddenly feel stagnant and you're doing, you keep trying to do that one thing and you're going and you're hitting the wall and you're hitting the wall and you're hitting the wall, that's your signal that you need to change directions. Your little Roomba has gotten stuck and it needs to be spun in a different direction. Okay?
Your spiritual Roomba. That's an excellent analogy. I like it. Keep going with that.
And that's it. Thank you. And that's in any path you're on. And so what happens is you go, and you think I'm supposed to go this way.
Yeah.
And they have put, yeah, Jamie likes that one too. Your guides, your angels, whoever, if you're not heading in the right direction,
they'll try to stop you.
They'll try to stop you.
They'll put elephant butts in a line right in front of you.
Exactly. Slow down, girl. Or
slow down.
Okay, you're going to do better if you go in a different direction. And then you kind of spin, and then all of a sudden everything opens up.
Again. Yeah.
Again. And you go along, and then boom, okay. And then you pick up on the fact that...
This is why we tend to go towards the path of least resistance, because by trial and error, we figure out the path that keeps getting energetically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, mentally supported and not resisted is probably the one you want to take.
Yes.
Apparently your dog agrees with me.
I think so. Yeah, she's on that. Did you get a path of least resistance there, sweetheart?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah,
Janine checked in and she liked the spiritual Roomba idea that you had as well.
Thank y'all.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Janine, on your engagement. Good job.
Oh, honey. Yay! That is awesome. And along your path too, things will be put in your hands that help you. For example, getting that book, seeing that commercial or seeing Johnny Carson and Shirley MacLaine talking about the book or something like that, and then you go,
or listening to a podcast on the internet.
Yeah, I mean you'll hear things that, and here's a real big clue. If you hear it more than once, you know it's something you know, like, have you ever done something like within a couple of days and hear something 2, 3, 4, 5 times?
Depending on which belief, yeah. Native American, the belief system is when it shows up 3 times in an inordinately short period, like 1 day, 1 hour, 1 week, whatever's a lot to you.
That's something getting your attention. Beep, beep, beep.
That's saying, look at this, look at this. Yeah. That's an indicator. That's an indicator. Yeah.
Yes. And let's see.
Iris, your boom led me to your podcast, and you ladies have enlightened me with your subjects.
Thank you. I don't know what the boom is. I don't know
what a boom is. Jamie, tell us what a boom is.
Maybe it could be a typo.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely. But, inspiration.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Right.
Book.
Oh, thank you.
Iris wrote a book.
Yes. and so again, and Jamie, that was pure coincidence that you came across it and saw it, and then it led you to here. So that's sort of your
part of your spiritual journey. Yeah.
And you'll see other things. You might hear us mention something or someone, and then you go and look that person up.
A title, a book, a movie, a service.
And you just don't know what that next step is going to be. But if it's something that grabs your attention, write it down, look it up, ask about it, whatever.
Go look at it. Go listen.
And that's kind of, and your journey will keep going. And like throughout my life, you know, raising, when I had small children, I would get bogged down with the day-to-day routine and kind of put stuff to the side, but I would think about it, and then something, you know, then my spiritual guides would scream at me with something else, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I need to do that. Go and, you know, and I've learned along the way, and I've been fortunate to be in situations where, like when I was at the Creative Center in Greensboro for a while, I was fortunate to be surrounded by people with this type of spiritual energy, and intuitive people and psychic people and artists and creatives and all that stuff.
Powerful energy people. Yeah.
Powerful energy. And I got a huge push forward while I was there.
Yeah. That's why we like hanging out with like minds. Yeah.
Yes. Met the person where I learned Theta healing from, and, you know, all that stuff. And
cool.
So many stories from that time. But yeah, that's so that's kind of
so that was where your spiritual journey.
Yeah, and the reason I share that is not because I think everyone wants to hear about my journey, but it's just to give examples of how things happen in your life that teach you things, or that bring things up so that you can move in different directions in order to progress and to learn, because that's the whole purpose of life, whether you're Christian or Jewish, or you're just kind of a spiritualist and you don't quite know where you fit. All of them will tell you in some way or another that it's about growth and finding your way back to God, you know. And
each step is about finding the next step.
Yeah.
It's a progression. It never ends. You hope it never ends.
Yeah. And I love, you told me about the spiral.
Revisiting at a higher level. Yeah.
Yes.
Major life events, you'll revisit it at a higher level over and over and over. Yeah.
Because it's like I've talked about, like, there's certain types of people that I've worked with in the past. And it's like the first time was like really bad. And then the next time it was different and harder in a different way. Mm-hmm. And then the next time it changed. And then the next time it's like, oh, I know how to handle this. And, you know, and it was just different challenges and different ways of presenting the same issue until you kind of feel like you got it down, and then it'll find another way to resurface. And you're, oh.
I can think of an example of that in your life that I'm seeing that you're handling beautifully now. You've had a pattern of people, of bosses or immediate supervisors who were insecure with the chain of command, and they were personally insecure. They had personal insecurities too. And that kept reappearing in your life. I mean, at work and I guess maybe at home, or personal, friends as well. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
I can think of.
well, the last time that happened in your life, life also snatched that person right away from you, and you did not cling on. You did not try to justify it. You did not try to fix it or resolve it or assuage anybody. You said, you want to go, go. And your the rest of your personal and professional life has continued to just skyrocket without that drama on your baggage. And that's like, yeah, you hit it. You figured out when it got around to that point, you know what to do when you run into that person, those type of people that are, protocol driven, and Hallmark is they're protocol driven. Yeah.
I'm not here to fix your issues.
Yeah. I'm not here to fix, your self-esteem issues. Yeah. Perfect.
I mean, I'll be here to support you any way I can, but when you start blaming me, no.
Yeah. That's like, you do have issues that I signed up to not deal with.
And that's another thing, that even when you, and I know we have similar beliefs, so for those who may not understand, we, and believe what you want. I'm not telling you have to believe this, but it's the truth.
You're sharing your truth. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sharing my truth and the truth.
That's all right. If that's what you're being told,
and that's all there is to it. No.
Damn it.
Oh, but
regale us, please.
Yeah, well, before you come into this world, you have listed, created, said, I want to learn about these things. And you create like contracts with other people,
projects, contracts, major events. Yeah.
And the thing I learned is when you start going through stuff, sometimes you need to release those contracts and say, I've done this and I'm not going to do it again, and it's all good, and I don't have to go through this again. So I'm releasing my mother from her contract to teach me how to be patient or whatever. And bam, it goes
Step
away.
1, release your family. Step 2, release your spouse. Step 3, release your children.
Yeah.
From the obligations, expectations that you may have put on them knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously. Yeah.
And then there's other things there's times where I've been going through something and I go, I'll ask Creator for the download to teach me and remind me that I already know how to do this. I know what it feels like to have it in my life. I'm confident and safe and moving forward with that. And I release all obligations and contracts to proceed as I have been, and it's like, whew, that's, even I'm getting goosebumps now. It's like, yeah, I don't know what I just released, but I released something.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Be free.
Yeah. But there really is ways to find out what those things are, and once you get a little bit of practice at it, you can pretty much
it happens faster.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, I don't have to be miserable. I can learn these lessons and still be happy and enjoy life.
Yeah. Tough shit can happen and you can still choose to be happy. Mm-hmm. That's a little known trick to people. That's good hint, good helpful tip for people on spiritual development path. My spiritual path, or in the beginning, was very different from yours.
Mm-hmm.
My family was atheistic agnostic.
Wow.
We did not go to church at all. Ooh, your sister gave us a long comment. I want to hear. I know we got a time lag, so I want to hear before we change gears.
Find it interesting. Mainstream religions will strongly discourage seeking spiritual growth outside the church. Yet, if you're outside the church, you are encouraged to seek growth that works for you.
Yes.
That's because they want possession of your soul.
And your money, and your family, and your children, and your brain, and your education, everything. They want possession of all that. But yes, your soul is their first meaty, juicy part they really, really, really want.
And it's all about numbers. And remember, religion is a business.
Which is why my parents were not religious. All right. My dad was raised Catholic. He was abused as a little boy by the Catholic Church. And he learned to mistrust them very quickly back in the 40s and 50s, 1940s, 1950s. And my mother, her parents were newspaper owners, writers, reporters, editors. So they were very critical, analytical
Just the
of
facts,
such things
ma'am.
as well. Yes, back and during the same time period, they do. And this,
yeah, Jamie says they do, and any
see,
seeking is determined to be satanic.
they need to
Period.
be satanic. That's a pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, again, that's a whole other subject. So my parents were very mistrustful of religion for easily provable reasons. And they did not have spiritual experiences. They had only had injuries from from religious experiences. And a popular phrase for that is church hurt or church injuries. If you are church hurt, church injured. And so when they met each other, that was something they had in common, is that neither one of them were interested in a church. Ironically, they got married on Christmas Eve inside of a church in Philadelphia. Because exactly, because people expected that. They were 22 and 26 at the time, back in 1955. So anyway, they had 3 children. I'm the third one out of 3. And we never did churches. We never did any kind of visitation like that. We didn't pray. We did talk about philosophy and psychology left and right constantly, every day, all day. They were artists. They were philosophers. They were both school teachers. So philosophy was a huge, and my dad was a fine arts teacher and a fine artist himself. So they were huge, and they were writers. They were readers. They were voracious readers. Researchers and so on, television, movies. We were constantly in the theaters, constantly going to movies, constantly going to concerts. And I do mean constantly: concerts, symphonies, everything. Shows, presentations, extended education things. I learned how to deal with hypothermia in spelunking when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
Because my parents took me to a little class for that. We went to cooking classes, music classes, all kinds of stuff. And they were, thank you, Jamie. They were very interesting people. And they made sure their children had very enriched lives in a philosophical sense and in a sociological sense, except for religion. So whenever anybody talked about religion, there was very little I knew, except when I was growing up. We moved when I was 6 years old, just like you on that one. And the only girl in the neighborhood who was my age lived adjacent to us, and her dad was the pastor of a Baptist church.
Oh my gosh.
She was a pastor's kid. Yeah, she was a preacher's kid. So her and her brother and I, who was a little bit younger, we would run and play with each other for years and years. Same school, all summer together, blah, blah, blah. We ran around, and so I went to church with her once in a while, and I would come home. My parents asked me how was it? They were a little more laid back because I was the third of 3. They weren't very strict on me. And I would say, they said this, they said that, and my parents would shoot it down with their type of reasoning, and I could understand what they were talking about. And I'm like, well, why? And they said, sweetie, they're trying to sell you a bill of goods because they want you to be a member and which validates their existence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they explained it on a child's level at that level. And they also knew I was a super smart kid, and I figured it out beyond that because I would say stuff back. And I was also very intuitive. And I would go because it was fun to play with other kids. We lived way out in the country in a very small, tiny neighborhood. So it was fun to hang out with new kids. And they gave us cookies and crackers and art projects and craft projects. And we would go on trips and go see cool things, be outdoors. And it was something different to do. And it was a lot of fun. They were always sweet and nice and saying they love me and that Jesus loved me. And they were, hug you and laugh and sing with you and encourage you. And it was nice. It was a healthy
There
environment.
is something to the cultural aspects of
And
church. I mean, even going and listening to them talk about scripture and stuff like that, it's stuff that I wanted to understand the history of. Whether I believed every word of it was another issue.
Right.
But it was like, oh, now I know what people are talking about. I have the cultural reference when you hear about it in movies and things like that. And it's like,
exactly. There were a lot of cultural references to religion that I didn't get because I never studied the Bible. I didn't read it till I was an adult. And what's interesting, because that affected my education, I actually got B's instead of A's and C's instead of B's because on final exams, I didn't understand a cultural reference or a literary reference to a biblical quote or in history exams to biblical history. I didn't know. And the teacher was assuming, because we were in the Southeast, that everybody in the class knew these things from their religious education. My parents were from New Jersey and Massachusetts and moved here, and then they had me. So no, that wasn't a part of my family's culture. So it affected me in big ways, that I didn't have that religious education. So, but on now that I'm 54 years old, now I appreciate that they didn't subject me to that, because they never said, no, you shouldn't. Yeah, we'd rather you not go, or just, they never did that. They just went, there's another way to look at that. And now, do you want to come with us? Nah, we really don't. But thanks for inviting us. And, they would always, and I'm like, why? And I would ask about my grandparents and what my parents did as children and so on. And I learned more about why they dissented. So that came into my profile of my spiritual growth, in that you should be cynical and questioning about spirituality. And that's where I started from. And my parents verbatim said, you need to find your own spirituality if you want to find spirituality at all. You're not required to.
Wow, that's progressive.
Very. This was in the 70s. 70s into the 80s. And my brother went on to follow a quasi-Catholic path of being Episcopalian and Lutheran and that kind of thing. A little bit Catholic. He also had multiple wives, multiple families. And my sister went on to be a Catholic and Islamic, both. She was
so twisted.
But she was a super genius. She was super genius. She could tell you in about 5 minutes what the profound similarities were between the two belief systems, and that's where she wrote in. Okay, what was the commonality between the two? Her focus was Near East studies and developmental child psychology. So things about humans growing and changing and becoming more than they are, related to the Near East studies. So she also knew more about Islam than maybe we would. All right, she lived over in Greece and Saudi Arabia for a short while, less than a year. So, but she got a lot of good insight. She too was very psychic and intuitive as well.
While you're talking about that, I got to throw in this little quick story. I've told it in another show, but I got to share it again. When I was about 12, 13 years old, I was outside and helping with doing yard work and stuff in the yard. And we lived in a court, and the people next to us were Muslim, and they were working in their yard. It was a Sunday morning, so all of us were working in the yard. It was a beautiful spring day, And the next door neighbors, they had a daughter that was my age and then a daughter that was a few years younger. Third house was a Southern Baptist preacher's family. And I was friends with their daughter, who was about a year younger than me. And then they had a little girl that was about the same age as the
So you
next door
guys were
neighbor.
all pretty much
Pretty much close
similar
to the
age.
same age, yeah. So two younger girls, two older girls. The preacher's family comes in from church, and we all saw the car pull into their drive, and they get out in their Sunday clothes, and they run in the house, and the girls change clothes and come out to play with us. And I had done what I needed to do with my family, and I was talking to my next door neighbor friends when the girls came over. So the five of us were standing there talking, and the little girl, she was probably 8 years old or so, 8 or 10 years old. The preacher's daughter, she says, she looks at both our houses and she goes, "My daddy says you're not supposed to work on Sundays." The little Muslim girl, tiny petite little thing, she looks at her and she goes, "Your dad works on Sundays."
That's a jaw dropper.
And the girl's like, she didn't know what to do with that.
Perspective. Which
Yeah.
is what multiple faiths and multiple religions will bring you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, thank you for bringing us there, because that's where I ended up rolling through. Went through my teen years very agnostic. College didn't hang out. I was open to listening to all kinds of stories. Visited one or two temples or churches along the way. Not until I was in my late 20s, early 30s, when I was getting more into reading and spirituality and talking to deceased people and learning more about what's on the other side, in doing readings with other people and for myself and for loved ones and so on. My sister died when I was 19. And of course, that was a jump forward in connecting to the other side as well. When you got an envoy, energetic envoy, it kind of helps. And that's just one way. But these that still didn't shift me as much as learning Reiki. In my particular case, a specific process really went. I was going dump. It took off. I was going na 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 na. Whoop! Shot out. So what happened is I started working for Big Brothers. Very short, in a short, abbreviate, very complicated thing. I started working for Big Brothers Big Sisters, which has a very, very high vibration angelic energy to it. You're helping children match up with temporary best friends that are healthy, vetted adults. Just to give you an overview. And it was my job to help moderate those matches for 1 year each, or longer. And I became a big sister as well. In that, I had coworkers, and we were talking about there's got to be more. There's got to be more to helping people. This is good, but what else can we do? Those conversations evolved into, one girl said, "Get you a Reiki treatment. You might like doing Reiki." And so I did. I went to a Reiki treatment with a guy she recommended. Never met him again. I don't know his name, but went to his house. He did non-contact Reiki. He just hovered his hands a couple of inches everywhere for an hour, from head to toe. She sat in the room quietly in the corner, and she was an intuitive. She was telling me what spirit guides were walking around the room. And debrief. I felt high and buzzed from that for days. But it was very calm. It was a very calm high, and debriefed with her because she felt it too. She was in the room, and she and I decided to study Reiki together, and we found a teacher. And after my first attunement, my teacher who did the attunement had to sit down and take a deep breath and just chill, and she, "Don't touch me, don't talk to me, just let me." Holy shit, that wasn't help. Margot, just, I don't see how you're alive, awake. Holy shit. And I was like, "Oh, Okay. I was aware that there was a lot of energy kerfuffle happening around, but I didn't have clarity yet to see what she saw. She was much older than me. And she talked about a parade came in the room of all these different types of spirit guides, and she named what they were. And that's a whole nother discussion. And all these high vibrating archangel angels and gods and demigods and mystics and everything else came parading in the room during this attunement that opened me up to the rest of the way to the universe. And she said, yeah, you're going somewhere with this. And I was like, okay. And I did. Some of you guys that know more about my past, I ended up being the Reiki lady in Greensboro for several years, back around 06, 04, 06, 08. And eventually I moved on when I left in 2000. I left for a little while in 06, came back in 08, got married and left again in 10 from the triad. But basically from 04 to 2004 to 2010, that's all I did was teach and coach people and start spiritual businesses and organizations such as Indigo Answers, my church, LUA, LEWA, Light and Energy Workers Association. Now you're talking about incremental steps. The reason I did all those things was I had never opened a business. I had never been self-employed. I had never been a spiritual person. I wasn't even raised anywhere near spiritual. How the hell did I start a church and become a pastor? Because my students told me what to do. As I had Reiki classes, they would have profound conversations, ask my opinion, ask for my insights, and we would share and come to ahas together. And then it became a habit for people to come and ask me for advice. And eventually they started saying, you need to start an organization, a church. There's one around you already. It's your students. And they feel you and you feel them. You already basically have. Why don't you just go ahead and make it a credential for us? Go look into it. And I was like, who in the right mind starts a church? Because I'm still thinking you have to be Jesus or Muhammad or somebody like that to start a church. I still had that belief system. I got hooked up by introduced friends of friends of friends. I got hooked up and talked to the right person, talked to the right two people, essentially. One of them, Dale Stacy. I should say three, Dale and Jeannie Stacy. All right. They educated me about what it really takes legally to start a church in North Carolina and the United States. And philosophically. I mean, they were 360 and very forthcoming, and God knows we are still extremely grateful for them. They still support us. We still support them. Earth Star Spiritual Center is the name of their organization. The other person him and his wife became friends of mine, and I don't want to say their name on the air because they're extremely private citizens. And so I'm not. But they also had private talks with me about the ins and outs and the what ifs. And more on a philosophical level, they also gave me a place to perform private spiritual stuff with 16 founding members of LUA. And after that, with a lot of our Reiki masters graduating and Reiki master teachers that I taught and graduated, they gave us a space to have those ceremonies outside of Greensboro and in the Oak Ridge area. And near the airport is what I'm hearing. So anyway, they're not there anymore. They moved away. So for years later, they moved away. So literally by then I had gotten in the habit of when somebody introduces me to someone else or says, you remind me of, that's a hint that that's a spiritual clue to move forward. Oh, you would like this book. That's a hint to read that book. That's the universe pushing that way. You would like this movie. You would like this podcast. You would like this YouTube show. You would like this song. Songs have shifted me in awareness, raised the vibration just by themselves. Certain people singing has shifted me. An old friend of mine, Courtney, when she sings, things shift. And she's now a public singer. And I mean, that's just one example. And when I got married, my first husband, I married an agnostic. He went down the path of Native American studies. We went our separate ways. A couple of years later, I met my current husband. He's also Native American studies, but he does more New Age. So, and my focus is more cosmic, outer space, deep space, higher self, stuff like that. So we have a real nice grounding,
Yeah.
elevating effect to each other. You know, grounds us and elevates us together. And we throw each other signals. Hey, I'm feeling this. Hey, I'm seeing that. Have you ever noticed that? Yep, I'm seeing this. And we try to help each other with comments like that. You and I try to help each other with comments like that. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing that? People hire me for readings, and I'm throwing out, the universe says you need to notice that, that, and that, and that, and that. And they're glad that you contacted me because you missed a couple.
Yeah.
So here we go. Write this down. And that happens in almost every single one of my readings. Like, I'm seriously, like 95% of them, that comment comes out sooner or later. So what's interesting, though, here's another hint for those of you that are intuitive, whether you do readings for other people or not. In your intuition, when you notice information that belongs to someone else, like your grandmother wants me to tell you, la, 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 la. I don't know why, but you need to turn right here instead of left or whatever. That information, the story, the feeling is for you too. Whenever a psychic or an intuitive person is reading for someone else, it's also for yourself. Not all of it, but there's a piece of it in there for you too. That too has led me further along in my spiritual journey, being aware that secondarily or tertiary, third level, that the message meant something for me too. Such, for example, I'm doing a reading, somebody's talking about the problems that they had with their brother growing up, yada, yada, this, yada, yada, that. I had a brother as well in my own life, and it doesn't fit. Their brother did this, did that. Mine never did those things. But then I realized, but wait a minute, my dad did do those things, and his brother affected him that way. So there's my take of it. It wasn't about me and my brother. It was about my dad and his brother. And I got insights for, that's why my dad did or didn't choose to do stuff.
And the cool thing is you can pass information that you get back to your ancestors that helps them grow, which then helps you grow.
Ancestral healing. There's whole practices on that. Yes. When you heal, the ripple goes back in time as well as forward. Absolutely, which is a really cool benefit that a lot of people are not allowed to be aware of, but
yes,
in Christianity. But in a lot of indigenous cultures, yes, 7 generations, 13 generations forward and back. So, yay. So those are some of the landmarks that are, that we've mentioned all through this episode, to pay attention when you're starting your path, that you're going to get clues to either stop, don't go there, or yes, go there. Yeah. Pick them up, look at them, and trust your intuition. Your beacon is inside you. It always will be.
And there is.
Those are just signals. That's something else. Sorry, I need to emphasize this. We missed something. We're talking about signals that are outside of you, that occur in your day-to-day world. Keep in mind perspective, because this is how religion gets started. You start worshiping those signals and those icons and those metaphors. No, that's not what we're saying. All they are is metaphors and signals. The real guidance for how to process that signal, or reject that signal, or realize it's for someone else and not you, inside. Thank you. Yes. And Jamie's agreeing. The beacon, the guidance is inside of you. Learn when your body and your energy is feeling resistance and when it's feeling acceptance. Yes, 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 that's good. We need to go this way. No, 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 we need to stop pursuing that. Notice how you feel in your whole body as well as your energy. The guidance for what your choices is already in you.
And allow your body to receive those, it's like I can almost remember a time where I had to say, I don't have to resist these feelings. You know,
Yes.
it's like, you think,
Yes.
you don't really, why am I tingly, or why am I feeling about, and know that it wasn't the external that was making me that, it was internal, and then tell myself, hey, this is okay. This is your,
Indicator system.
yeah. And so you learn it and you recognize it, and it grows from there, and it gets easier.
It's not the Rona, sister. Your bullshit meter is going off.
Yay!
That weird tingly resistance feeling. That's your BS detector going off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for an example. Yeah, practice your bullshit meter. That's if you're even further back, you've been asleep for a while and you're way back in the beginning of your spiritual journey, start flexing I'm calling it your bullshit detector. Observe something you know is false and watch how your energy, your brain, your body reacts to it as, oh, okay, that's what it feels like when my energy realizes something is an untruth. And then go to something that is a truth, such as a beautiful flower bush or a fun, happy, silly movie that you enjoy, or a sweet friend or a difficult friend, and notice how you energetically feel, heart, head energy, about each positive or negative situation, and start learning discernment when your body is speaking. It's that simple. There's the trick. There's the surprise. Guys, it really is that simple. Learn what feels attractive energetically, positively, and what feels repulsive and you're rejecting and cut offish, or vomitous and nauseating, or whatever. Yeah, it can feel like a
look up male models, and if you're a woman, and go through that. Which ones like woo, and which ones are like,
not so much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you got flashcards, when you're hanging out with your girlfriends. Look at people around the room. Which ones at the restaurant? Check out people and quietly talk about, that's a good person. That's a questionable person. That's not somebody I'm ever going to want to talk to. And privately flex and give each other feedback. Yeah, validation. Humans love validation.
I eat it up anytime
We all do. We are programmed to validate or invalidate. Yeah.
You wanted me to, before I forget, I wanted to share this, and I thought this was you said
I wanted to wrap up on that. Thank you.
Do you want me to wait? Am I too fast?
No,
maybe I'm too fast.
No, okay. It's actually 10:50, so we probably should wrap up.
Yeah, I know we went way past, and I didn't want to cut you off, but yeah.
No, I'm finished. That's where I started on my journey. Where it is now is completely much hours and hours further down that conversation. Yeah. So, was there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
No, I hope everybody else that's watching now or later gets what they need from this, and hopefully it helps a little bit in their own personal journeys. We could go on and on for hours about this, and we might revisit it another time. And plus, it's good for us to kind of sift through some of this, because it'll hit us later. Oh, we need to really talk about XYZ. And I was making notes while we were talking too.
Thank God ours takes notes.
Maybe I can't find them later, but yeah.
They're out there.
So yeah, so I think we enjoyed it. We hope y'all did too. But Margot asked to share this with y'all. So
yeah, when a modern catchphrase for being more spiritually aware and shifting is one word, and into 5D, the fifth dimension. Just to give you a frame of reference, the modern workaday world is 3. It's called third dimension. Fourth dimension is a time of transition and chaos sort of like a doorway, a gateway. transition time and liminal
Grand
space.
Central Station.
Grand Central Station, chaos, but there's a reason for it. There's a reason. Basically, you're getting rid of shit that doesn't serve you anymore, so you can be more. And the more that I'm talking about is typically labeled in this vernacular as 5D. So after you reach that, after you shift into 5D, if it speaks to you, reach back for the others and help the next guy up, which is what Eyes of Indigo is about.
Yes.
Namaste.
And Jamie, I'm making a note. She says that she would like to know more about the vibration or how it feels when you get a message for her. She gets a vibration in her ears. It's subtle and sometimes intense, and I feel it and would love to hear. So, yeah.
Yeah, so we can talk about what body signals are. We can do a show on that. What are some intuitive signals and what are they like, and what you can do with them.
Yeah, so awesome. But next week we're hitting shadow work. So come join us.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the dark side of this good stuff and have fun with that.
And
come join us.
And dark doesn't mean bad. So
Right. It's just shadow work. It's good for you. It's healthy.
Good night, all.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you for joining the Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details at www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyrighted 2022 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. All rights reserved.